7%, which roughly came to about $140 extra each month in their checks, is not enough, that it's not keeping up with what their actual costs are this year. So there is this concern that more than half of the retirees they spoke to are feeling that they're already spending above that. But you need to remember what happens is, it's kind of funny the way this consumer price index that they use to calculate it, because it's not based on what a retiree over 62 spends. And so what the Senior Citizens League found is that, in fact, it calculates for a very small percentage of someone's budget in that index. Maybe 6% is for healthcare costs, when in fact, most retirees that they, in their survey, about 29%, they said most of them, 29% of their budget went to healthcare, not that 6%. So there is a disconnect here, which is why it can be a little squishy and how it actually can help a retiree. So again, all these numbers are early on, but it's worth taking note of that. It's important.
Social Security, because if a default happens, one of the first things to fail will be Social Security checks to seniors who rely upon them. But as you've been sounding the alarm about, Social Security also faces another threat in just 9 years estimated, insolvency. And the top two Republican candidates for a presidency, Donald Trump and Ron DeSantis, are now both saying they wouldn't change anything about Social Security. Is that disqualifying?
You know, I think if you have a leading presidential candidate, be it Joe Biden, who clearly is saying that, or Donald Trump, pretending to the American people that there's no problem with Social Security, then they lack the leadership to become the president of the United States. By the way, you can fix Social Security and you don't raise taxes on seniors, you don't cut their benefits. And there's a way to do it that actually improves the program. But there's no leadership like that from Trump or Biden. In my mind, that lack of leadership on an issue so critically to so many Americans is disqualifying.
So you have a plan to create a $1.5 trillion fund that would use investment returns to fund Social Security. Again, we're about 9 years out from insolvency estimated. Given how DC works or doesn't work, given how we're waiting until the last minute with the debt limit, we're going to go through this again in the fall with government funding. Is there any willingness among your colleagues, Democrats and Republicans in the Senate and the House, to act now to try to fix this problem?
First, to put this in context, when insolvency comes in 9 years, people who are currently receiving social benefits will get a 24% cut. That's the reason you want to act now. And if you wait until the deadline, then the cuts are bigger and the tax increases are greater. And so if you want to solve it now without that, you need to solve it now. And we actually had bipartisan senators and bipartisan group of representatives that were willing to commit to this big idea. Again, $1.5 trillion in an investment fund, separate from Social Security, and the risk falls upon the fund. If the market goes down, people still get their benefits. No 24% cut. When Joe Biden came out in his State of the Union speech and began to speak about Republicans trying to take away your Social Security, it all fell apart. The president clearly plans to run for re-election, as does Joe Biden, as does Donald Trump, making Social Security an issue, attacking anyone who comes against them. They are ignoring a problem which is important for our seniors, important for our nation's indebtedness. I wish both of them would show real leadership.
Our national debt now stands at about $32 trillion. How did we get here? Whose fault is it? Republicans? Democrats? Well, the answer is yes. Both parties are at fault for different reasons. Republicans come to this floor, and will come to this floor today, saying we need unlimited military spending. And Democrats will come to this floor and say we need unlimited welfare spending. And guess what happens? They compromise. People say Washington doesn't compromise. They compromise all of the time. That's what this debt deal that's before us is compromise. But the compromise is always to spend more money. How do we know that? The debt deal that's been crafted by Biden and McCarthy is an unlimited increase in the debt ceiling. See, historically, when we raised the debt ceiling, it would be $100 billion or $200 billion or, God forbid, $1 trillion. It was a dollar amount. This debt ceiling will go up till January 2025. How many dollars will be borrowed? as many as they can possibly shovel out the door. It will be how much money can you shovel out the door until January 2025. That's how much we will spend. Is there a dollar amount? No. How much can you shovel it out and how fast can you shovel it out? There will be no restraint from this debt deal. There is a pretense. There is a playing around the edges as if, oh, there might be a cut here or there might be a cut there. There are no cuts. Why? 2/3 of your spending is entitlement spending. The on-budget entitlement spending is Medicare, Medicaid, food stamps, and other programs. They are called mandatory and no one ever looks at them. They go on in perpetuity. This is what drives the deficit. Who took them off the table? How come there's no discussion of this? Actually, Republicans took them off the table because they fear being criticized by the Democrats. It's being used in the presidential campaign. Let's not talk about the entitlements, but that's 2/3 of what gets spent every year. So if you don't talk about the entitlements, if you don't talk about mandatory spending, you're frankly not a serious person, and you will not make a serious dent in this problem. So we've taken off the table all mandatory spending, no discussion of it. Does this mean they're in good shape, that Medicare and Social Security and all these programs are in good shape? Heck no, they're not in good shape. They're all running out of money. They're headed towards bankruptcy. Is anybody brave enough to reform them? No, not a damn thing's going to be done for any of them. But when you take them off the table, take all the entitlement spending off the table and do nothing about it, now we're down to 1/3 of the budget. So